Say hi to everyone. Say hello.
Hi.
State your name. No.
My name is Lori Heron, and I'm Lacey Heron's mom.
Hey everyone, I'm with my mom today, and I'm going to be interviewing her input and her perspective on how she discovered I had APD, how all that stuff turned out. So without ado, let's get started. Woo! Okay, so how did you discover I had auditory processing, or how did you discover in general that something was off about me, and what age, or like how old was I?
Well, it was kind of a progressive discovery. The first thing I noticed was that, having dealt with other little children, young children, infants growing into toddlerhood and above, the most natural expression of their learning is you say something, they repeat what you say. Even the sounds ba 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 da da da, and you would not do that. You just would not do that. Mm-hmm. But you became very skilled in making up your own words for things that were close enough to what you were trying to say that when you said something and you put in your own word, it made perfect sense. You knew how to put it into something. This was as you got older. When you were very young, it took a long time before you really tried to talk because you didn't want to bother with it. You were very sensitive to light. You were very sensitive to sound.
Yeah, especially.
Still am. Yeah, poor thing. You were 10 months old before I realized you couldn't be in the room with us, because if we were in the room, you could not sleep. We'd get you to sleep, and we'd go to bed, and the minute we fell asleep, you'd start screaming because we snore.
I can hear them from a doorway in the hallway. They could be in their own rooms with the door shut, and I can hear them snoring. And I'm like, ooh, good thing I'm not in there. And I used to sleep with my sister. My sister and I shared a room together. In that time, she was older than me by 10 years, and she would get annoyed with me a lot because I would always complain about her snoring and her, like, the little noises and stuff, because I would pick that up. And so I'm a very light sleeper because of that. It's hard for me to, I sleep very lightly, and I hear every little sound. I have to have everything pitch black, no little crack that's white, or any kind of light source, and everything completely silent. So yeah, go on with what you were saying.
Or a rhythmic noise that you're comfortable with. When you were an infant, we'd have to sit you in a vibrating infant seat for you to fall asleep and keep that going, because you could hear it and you felt the movement of it, and it comforted you. But you couldn't sleep without it. And it was like, what am I going to do with this kid? Then you were 10 months old when I figured out how sensitive you were to sound. What I did was I went ahead and put you in the porta-crib in the living room, and you slept beautifully. There was no one else in there. Nothing bothered you. No lights, no sound, no other people.
Yeah, till I was 3, in the little house, we call it, our old house. I would sleep in the living room. I had my own little bed there. And so when we moved here, I was like, oh, I want to sleep in the living room, So, funny me.
Yeah, you were really upset. We were going to make you sleep in a bedroom.
And why did I sleep outside again? Why did I sleep outside of your guys' bedroom? Because of the noises? Or...
Yeah, because we couldn't sleep in the same room with you because you couldn't sleep if we were in it.
I had it all to myself. It was nice. Okay.
But the thing about the language, she wasn't developing her language skills in the way that I knew was normal. So I kind of watched it as she grew. I purposed to understand what she was saying, even if she wasn't saying it properly. Mm-hmm. If a dog was a frog, I knew she was talking about a dog.
I would mix words up and then combine them.
Yeah. Yeah, she came up with some very creative stuff in there. I wish I could think of one right now.
And I would, in school, I would mix my B's and my D's and certain wording like that.
That was kindergarten, yeah.
Because I also have dyslexia, But
and
you know,
things move
yeah.
and walk across the board.
With dyslexia, it's like that part of like it comes and goes a little bit now, but it's not like I feel like I've overcame a lot of what I used to struggle with. So that's not really a problem or issue with me anymore. I skip like sentence lines here and then, but it's nothing major. More so, auditory processing affects me in my life right now.
Right. Missing pieces of conversation, things that you're speaking in a conversation, or that you're being taught in class.
Yeah.
You know, it's like constantly hitting the tape recorder to rewind, play, till you know that you've got the whole sentence or the whole text of what you're trying to take hold of.
And she would be my advocate in school, and she would really push that I got the material and the things that I needed so I could succeed. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and how you pushed for me to...
Well, because I knew that her language had not developed normally, I knew she was progressing, she was learning, but she wasn't learning like she should, and I was concerned before she started kindergarten that it might be an issue. So I contacted the school district and asked for her to be tested before she started kindergarten. At that point in time, they tested her, and her numbers were off, but they were off by such a slight amount that she didn't qualify for any extra help or aid at that point. Now, after going through kindergarten the first year, where she was totally lost because it was a chaotic class, she didn't understand what they wanted her to do a lot of the time. It was just, it didn't work.
I went behind the lines. Yeah, I remember, you know, my first year of kindergarten, I didn't learn much. I didn't even know that I had a learning challenge or anything like that. I just thought everything was just so overwhelming. I was a very shy kid too, so I didn't really speak up, and I couldn't explain. I felt like I didn't know how to explain to my teachers. I wasn't getting it or understanding what they were saying. They would ask me to read a certain line or a certain sentence or whatever it might be, and I would just start to cry because I was shy, and also because I didn't know what they wanted me to do. I missed lots of things, and I was behind because I was like a few steps back than everyone else, and I just didn't know it at the time. So
we did kindergarten again the next year.
Yeah, I'm so thankful for that, because that gave me an opportunity and chance to actually learn what I wasn't learning, and I got a little more so I could actually grasp it. And if I didn't have that, I don't think I would be here today with everything that I know. I think I would be much more behind.
By the time she was in first grade, I really took the opportunity to speak with her teacher, who was a wonderful teacher, and just say, you know, kind of watch her, because I'm concerned about a possibility of some kind of auditory processing, some kind of maybe dyslexia, something's not quite like it should be with Lacey. I know she works very hard, and I know she tries very hard, but just pay attention and give me your opinion as well. And by the end of first grade, she was willing to say, yeah, I'm seeing enough things, I can tick off enough boxes to say I will join you in requesting that she's tested. So Lacey was tested and found to be in need of some resources. She got an IEP started, and in second grade she learned to read, which was a big milestone.
You know, she was telling me a few weeks ago, I didn't know this at all. She said, you know, you couldn't really read on usual white piece of paper, but you could. Do you want to tell them?
Yeah, I was thinking about that the other day. She used to have this little kid book about a ladybug, and it was made out of fabric, with colored fabric. And when she was 5, she could pick that thing up and she could read it from cover to cover. But it wasn't on white paper. If it had been written the same thing word for word on white paper, she wouldn't have been able to read it. because it would have been a challenge to her eyesight. It would, and the dyslexia.
Yeah.
And all of that. I mean, there was one day in kindergarten with your second class where your teacher goes, "Hey, I think she got it. She's got dog. I think she's really, really got it." And then the next day, the word dog was God again.
I switched it.
Because she switched it and couldn't tell that she had switched it. You know, and by the time we started in first grade, her teacher started implementing some things, even though she didn't have an IEP yet. You know, the B&D trick, you know.
Whoa there. The B&D trick.
You know, this one's B, this one's D. To tell the difference between a B and a D.
You know, I'm still struggling.
So she had to do that over and over again until she really got it. Once it was actually, she had that roadmap in her head, she was okay with it. But it took some going to get there. Yeah. And that's how these things are. It just takes more effort and more strength. It's also very tiring. When she comes home from school, she often has headaches.
Yep.
Or she's exhausted and wants to take a nap. But she's a very driven person. And she tries very, very hard to do everything that she does. The other interesting thing about Lacey in particular is that her situation is baffling to many teachers because there's 2 or 3 areas that she actually excels in and does better than the average bear in. But there are other subjects that she can't meet the standard in.
Math and science.
To them, they don't understand the difference. They think because she does well in areas that she has a natural inclination for, that she can do the same with the other things. But the thing is, they don't understand. It's the way her brain's wired. Everything about those things that are difficult for her has to be repeated till there's a roadway in it.
Repita fajita.
Yeah, repita fajita.
That's what she calls it.
Yeah, repita fajita for her. And with lack of use, she loses math skills. With lack of use, she uses science. She loses science facts. She's able to keep something if she keeps going. One more thing that I would like to say that I think is vital and of importance is it's good to have your parent be your advocate or whoever is your guardian. However, insist that your child be an advocate for themselves with the people that they work with at the school. They need to ask questions. They need to talk to their teachers. They can't just go and not say anything because it's too frustrating.
It's not always going to be
because teachers, by and large, appreciate a student who will take the time to approach them and explain what's going on because they have no way of knowing. You know, they can observe little things here and there, and quite frankly, with auditory processing in particular, it can look very much like they're just not trying, and that's anything but true.
Yeah.
You know, they're not nodding off or looking at something else because
there are reasons.
They're stressed out. They're stressed out, or they can't understand what's going on and they don't know how to stay with it. So the other thing too is at a young age I started asking her in the best way she could to explain to me what was going on from her side of it, and it took a long time for her to really be able to say a lot about it. This isn't something I put in her mind. This is something she had to share with me as things went along. So once she was tested enough that it was documented that there were actual things that needed some focus and help and implementation, things became simpler for her, even though it's been a lot of hard work. But it's worth the effort.
It really is. Yes.
And, teach your kids to be advocates for themselves at school. If you run into a teacher who doesn't listen to your child, that's when the parent needs to step up. But they need to start talking to their teachers when they're in elementary school. Don't wait for junior high and high school.
I don't remember myself talking to them, but I probably, did I?
Do you remember me telling you to?
Maybe. Yeah.
I started with Mrs. Beatty. I told you, you're saying, well, you come home and complain about something, and I'd say, I want you to talk to Mrs. Beatty about it. Oh, there's not time. Yeah, there is. You need to talk to her and tell her that this is a problem for you.
Okay.
And eventually you did.
Okay.
And she's like, okay.
Mrs. Beatty was my first RSP teacher, my first year. After that, from 3rd grade to 5th grade, I had another one. Just so you guys know. So,
but it's all doable, and there's ranges. This is a spectrum. That not everybody has the same capacity or capability, so there's going to be variances in who can do what, how much help you need, whether you excel in an area or you don't.
You don't have to be exactly like me.
It's an individual thing.
Yeah.
And no matter where you are or who you are, you have a right to do the best that you can with what you've got. So, use the school system, the special ed system, talk to the teachers, talk to the regular, powers that be within the school district, and find out what's available for your child. And kids, talk to the people that you work with at school. And really, if somebody's not listening, have a parent come in and start asking questions. Somehow, that can make a difference. So, that's about all I have to say about that. Anything else?
Have you, what are the differences you've seen throughout the years in me compared to from elementary school to now? Things I have really, areas in life I have really grown in that you have noticed throughout the years?
Well, you're kind of an interesting character in that you really are an extrovert, but when you find yourself in very uncomfortable situations, you kind of withdraw and you pull way back. You've kind of pushed more beyond that. You've learned to ask questions when you have to. You've learned to do what you need to do
for you guys to do if you have
and
this.
Put it into practice. So, I would say that the thing that's one of your greatest advantages personally is the fact that you're driven to really learn it. You're not trying to skate through it. It's just get through the class.
Yeah, it's not all about
You're trying to learn it. You're trying to learn what's being taught. And that's a great asset to her. If she didn't care, she'd be in a whole nother place by now. But because she's applied herself and she's had people who cared enough to help her take hold of what she was trying to get hold of, she has to a large degree succeeded in learning in her life as a student.
Wow, yeah.
So
I'm zoning out right now.
yeah, I know.
That happens too when you have auditory processing. Your brain tries to take breaks, and do you know what that is? Like, I know a little bit about
They used to call it daydreaming for the everyday person. It looks like daydreaming. But she's just hitting the pause button for a moment to rest and recoup. And then she'll dial back in, find the channel again, and start interacting.
And it's like, even when I notice I'm doing it, I'm trying to refocus, but you just have to let it play out really quick. Then you're done, I guess. I have another question.
Yes, ma'am.
What was it? Let me think about that. One thing that helped me was stepping out socially. I highly recommend stepping out of your comfort zone if you have auditory processing, despite what insecurities you might have, whether you feel like you don't, whether you feel like you can't talk right when you try to talk to other people or play games. Like, I hate games. I hate games. Like, only for the sole purpose of because I can't understand what's going on
fast enough to win.
Yeah, and to help my team. I always feel like I'm letting down my team or whoever it might be. So but you know what? That shouldn't limit you. Embrace the awkwardness. Embrace the difficulties in life, because that's only going to strengthen you and grow you up more. Or what's the word? I don't know. See, stuff like that, you know.
Well, the perseverance causes greater strength.
Yeah, at least give yourself a chance. And be what's the word? Take it easy with yourself. You know, give yourself some grace. Don't be so critical. You know, it's not your fault that you learn this way, you know? So, you know, it helped me step out more and to talk to more people. You know, I had to learn how to learn, literally. I had to learn how to communicate with other people, because that was just so foreign to me. It was not natural. It was just like something I didn't know how to do. How do you just go up to someone and be like, "Hi, how are you? How's this going in life?" You know? I was just like, "Hi. What do we talk about? We talk about stuff? Oh, okay. Let me try to process and follow you quick enough in my brain." You know, I had to learn a lot of that in my early teens, from like 11 to now, you know? Especially when I was about 13 or 14, I got into greeting in my church. I talked to someone about it. It was a step out of my comfort zone. I know I wanted to serve in some area of our church, and so a certain person got me into greeting in the front. So greeting people in, and you know, there was a part of
hello and welcoming people.
Everyone and anyone. It's come as you are. So that was a lot of intimidation for me. But you know, I knew it was something I wanted to do in my heart, because there's this part of me that knew I wanted to talk to people and socialize and do all this kind of crazy stuff, but then I wouldn't let myself, and I didn't know how to start that because I was so afraid of what other people were going to think, and trying to follow up in conversations and socializing. I just felt awkward in that. And so all of this you're seeing right now, a part of greeting and learning my social skills, a big chunk of that has made me into who I am today. Talking with all this vocabulary and just, well, the vocabulary stuff's more school, but it just, all in all, the more you step out into uncomfortableness and do stuff you want to do but you're scared to do, it's going to help you grow and progress and learn things, whether this thing was right for you or whether it was not. How will you know if you don't try? So that's what I'm learning. And I still get shy, and I have days where I don't want to greet because I just don't feel like it, and I'm just like, oh great, I have to socialize with people today, and I just don't know what to say. I have those days. I have bad days where I can't really talk right. It's turning into a me interview right now, so I'm going to go back to her.
What you just said reminds me of what happens some days when I pick you up from school.
Yeah, man.
I ask the exact wrong question.
How are you today?
Yes,
how are you? How's school?
I usually go, hi, how was school today?
I'm like taking a long walk to the car. And
she'll give me this grimace and say, it wasn't good, I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
So we'll ride home and she'll shut her eyes and then she'll ask where the Advil is for her headache when we get home.
Oh
because she's got a headache from the lights and from focusing. And then we try again tomorrow. But I still haven't learned not to ask that horrible question. How was your school today?
And it's not her fault. It's just... Yeah, that's a good example. Can you tell everyone... Or maybe I can, but... What was your perception in middle school for me and when it came to getting the help I needed? And how was that?
It was more difficult than elementary school. The special ed department in that particular school didn't really have anybody permanent, and they had people coming in and going out, and
It was crazy.
there was one person who was very good, and then the person after that who stayed was kind of
He tried his best, but...
it was almost like he was so living in his own he had his own thing going as far as his own challenges, and it manifested in the way that he taught the class, which made it more confusing for other people who had some of the same challenges.
Oh, okay. So one thing that is minor, one thing I struggle with, especially, is the tone of voice. So I can hear things way better with a certain tone.
Yeah.
And how fast they're going, especially, of course. But specifically the way someone sounds. So a lot of times, this might sound bad. Her voice really...
She can't stand the sound of my voice.
And, she would think that it was her. Maybe she just doesn't really like me, and I'm doing something, she doesn't like or something. And I don't know, what was your perception? Sometimes, nowadays.
Well, nowadays, okay, not back when you were...
I had Cut this out. No.
Okay.
I had a bad attitude when I was younger. Okay. Go on. Time for another video for another day.
I know. Immediately, what pops to mind is the day that you.
No, let's not talk about that.
Okay.
It's not good. No, I mean nowadays.
No, it wasn't good. These days, she expresses herself well enough that I know if she's having a hard time, I just let her be, and I don't take it as personally as I used to. In the beginning, it did have a very personal edge to it because she was angry. She was tired and frustrated and angry. And I was the person trying to interact with her. So I got a lot of the flack because of that. She's learned through time to express what else is going on in other ways, and it's more acceptable to other people because they know that, oh, this isn't a personal thing about me.
And the fact that I can communicate that to her, it's a blessing.
Big.
It's a miracle.
Yeah. It took a long time.
Not everyone
It took
can
a long
do
time
that.
to come. Yeah. But she ended up trying in junior high. Actually, one of her best helps in junior high was not a special ed teacher. It was another language arts teacher who was a great encouragement to her and taught her many wonderful things. She didn't let her go easy. She had her work really hard, and she did and was able to because it was one of her areas of strength. So, very happy for that teacher. Miss Wager. Yeah.
I had to figure out really quick, was it,
Christina Wager.
We're talking about you now.
Another great teacher.
Amazing teacher. Shout out, Miss Wager. What was I asking you again?
You were asking me about junior high and what my impression was of that. You were more ready to kind of give up during junior high because you felt like you couldn't get anywhere.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I was gonna say that. Because I got to the point where with the help I was given, I felt like the person, or the RSP teacher, just couldn't. It wasn't his fault, but he just couldn't provide what I needed, and in an effective way to where I could actually grasp something out of that. He was more concerned about like the whole class as a whole, and because he would come into our classes that we've had throughout throughout our schedule, with all the classes we've had, he would come in certain ones like English and math and maybe another one. So now I'm blank. You'll have those moments too when you're just blank. What was I saying?
You were talking about when your teacher would co-teach with you in junior high and how it affected you.
Yeah.
And that he couldn't make it work for you in those situations.
And he would go really fast too sometimes. He would. I felt like he didn't really
his natural
take enough time with
tendency
me.
was to speak very quickly, go through it once,
And
and
he
then
blew
move
up a
on
lot
to something else, and then he'd lose his temper.
Yeah.
And
And it's like he wanted to teach really well.
Yeah.
That was his passion. And it just did not work in that kind of a setting for me. And it really kind of sucked because he was there for the last 2 years. The first year, sixth grade was crazy. I went through about 5 RSP teachers in and out that year.
Yeah.
So that kind of took me who knows where. So middle school wasn't really the best years of my life when it came to learning. And, I just wanted to fit in like everyone else. I was like, oh, well, if they could do this, why can't I do that? Where are my ability skills? Maybe I'm not trying hard enough, or maybe I should just go at their pace and try and not care too much and just go with it. After that, freshman year starts, and I have an IEP teacher, and I didn't know what an IEP was. Well, I think I did, but they called your RSP teacher basically your case carrier. Your case carrier is your educational provider who has your IEP, holds it, who advocates for you at times. In your IEP meetings, he helps and all that. Do you want to explain what an IEP is?
Sure.
And sorry, what you would recommend, even young parents of children who have, who they think that they have a child who might have auditory processing or some kind of learning challenge, what an IEP can provide, and how to start that. Do you know?
Well, you need to make a request, a formal request at the school to have the child tested. An IEP is an individualized education plan for the child suited to meet their needs as a student to learn, to help provide accommodations or teaching styles or other things that can be implemented so that they can process and take hold of what they're being taught in school. Not everybody needs an IEP. Some people do. The people that do need it. And you have to ask for it, and you have to be persistent. It takes a while for the testing to be completed and done. They do everything from beginning to end. Once a year you have an IEP meeting where you go over the goals for the coming year. You talk about the strengths, you talk about the weaknesses, you set goals, and you agree or disagree with what the school wants to do. You sign the paperwork, and then the next year they review the goals, and they will say, Lacey has met the goals for science in this area, and she is able to do this. Lacey has not met the goals in math. She cannot multiply fractions and do division, that kind of a thing. So it helps you keep moving forward with your education and your learning. The other thing I'd like to say is that when she was in elementary school, her first RSP teacher was very clear about talking about how this kid can go to college. Because she was married to a man who actually had gone to college and done very well there, who had some different learning challenges, but some things were the same. So, don't think that you can't do what other people have to do well in a certain area because you're challenged. It just means you have to go in a different way.
Yeah.
You can still get to the same place.
And it might
You
take
just
longer.
have to go a different way. You might have to go around the mountain and up another hill and down a valley and up another mountain, where everybody else just goes around the mountain and around the corner. It's worth the effort.
It is.
It's worth the effort. So.
What tactics and tips, I don't know if we've been over this, but what tactics would you recommend other teachers and young parents of children who have APD, or anyone basically, what would you tell them, and what advice would you give them to help that student or that child who is struggling with auditory processing? What did you find that worked in me that could possibly help with other people with learning and certain things?
Well, this works with most kids, whether they need or have help with an auditory processing issue, or they're just a regular child who doesn't have an auditory processing issue. But music, singing something, it activates another part of the brain, and they're able to take hold of things that they can't take hold of if you're just talking to them. So that worked real well.
It did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
We would sing things, or we would make silly phrases to remember things if she was having a hard time remembering something. Like repeat a fajita.
Repeat a fajita.
That's our little thing for we know that it has to be repeated.
Especially visual stuff. It's a basic thing, just...
Yeah, she's a visual learner. She knows that about herself.
If you tell me something audibly, it's most likely not going to retain all of it or get the picture in my head sometimes.
If I can put a picture in her head about something that we're discussing, then she's got it.
Yep.
Because she's a visual learner. It's like a movie. She's got it in her head.
It's amazing. I would change that for the world. It's my sacrifice.
Right. And every once in a while, if something horrible happens, she'll say, "What?" And I'll start to tell her, she'll say, "I don't want to see that."
In my head.
Like, okay. Don't tell me stuff like that.
She gets so descriptive. It's like
I'm a little bit too verbal for you sometimes. Sorry.
Oh, another thing. She's a great advocate because I do use her a lot. I ask her. She's like my mother and brain sometimes. No, it's not right. But she's my advocate when it comes to trying to explain things to me, reading, and finding the right words to say. She helps me express myself. What's inside, trying to get that out, especially when I was younger, even a few years ago, not too long ago. Trying to verbally get the right words out and have it make sense. For instance, if I'm trying to write a paper, I know what I want to say. She helps me. Do you want to explain the process, maybe?
Sure. Kind of what we do. Because she's not exactly sure how to link her words together all the time to say exactly what she wants to. At this point, at this age, I have her write down what she thinks she wants to say. So she does a rough draft. I look at it, and I give her options of how to express it using different words. And then she chooses what she wants to write down, and she rewrites the whole thing so it says what she wants it to say. So what I will do is I'll just handwrite out the same thing that she did with changing some of the words, and she'll go through and edit it and then decide if she wants to add something to it, and then it's her own work. It's not me, it's her. But it just helps her to utilize a better vocabulary than she can come up with on the spot for homework. So that's something that she...
And not everyone has that kind of a mother who would do that, But I'm fortunate because she doesn't work. She has more time on her hands to help when she can. She's still really busy. So
Hey, I'm just getting through high school. I don't want to go to college, so you're gonna have to have fun with that.
yeah, what a joy. At least, you know, a few years ago I wasn't even considering it. That's going to be in another video. Whole nother story. I think that about covers it. So,
Yep.
thank you for being on my channel and just sharing with the world. As a parent, what auditory processing, what's the right words? Sharing with the world, I'm going to have to pick this up, aren't I? Sharing with the world your experience as a mother who has had a child that has auditory processing. So thanks for sharing your experience. I know this is really going to help many others out there, parents, people who don't know what APD is, students like me, and young children. It's all for the next generation and for the ones who maybe are lost and just don't know what's wrong with them. And it's the fact that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just, like we say, how you're wired. So, without ado, don't let just my voice be heard. Let our voices, all in one, be heard together, in unity. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great day. Like and subscribe. If you've enjoyed this video, just give it a thumbs up, just like I said. And comment down below, or give us some feedback, and let us know if you want her back in one of my future videos. And my mom. Yeah, let me know. Any advice you want to give me, I am free for that. You know, I'm open to that. And yeah, so thank you guys. Have a great day. Bye.
Yes, let's hear from your viewing public.